Hello and welcome to the first lecture of Module 1. In the next 3 videos, I will discuss the history of electricity market deregulation and the newly evolved business models around it. In the first video, I will focus on the history of changes and the reasons behind them. Traditional electricity systems mainly consist of 3 elements. Generation network, typically large fossil-based power generators that are far from electricity consumers. Transmission network, which is typically in charge of transferring electricity from generators closer to the end consumers. You can recognize this network by the high electricity towers and thick wires in between cities. Distribution network, which is in charge of last mile electricity delivery to the end consumers, or typically intra-city delivery. This network takes electricity from the transmission network and delivers it to the end consumers. This network can sometimes be recognized by smaller poles and thinner wires next to the roads and within the cities. The traditional electricity network was owned by one entity, usually governmental, and was known to be a natural monopoly. Anything including the cost of electricity, the quality of service, and the choice of origin of electricity was decided by this single entity. This had created a monopoly of energy and therefore high cost for energy. Consumers didn't have a choice to switch to another provider if they thought their electricity provider charged them unfairly or if its service is not good. The monopolistic provider also didn't have any incentive to improve its service, be more innovative, and reduce the cost as there was no competition. This led to high energy prices, and since energy is fundamental to many other industries, this also affected the economy as a whole. So this induced a dire need for a change to bring down electricity prices and improve the service to some way. The first attempt was to regulate prices, such as price caps. This didn't help much, as monopolies started to lower the quality of their service even further to compensate for the lower prices they could charge their customers. Yet, customers had no other choices. Therefore, legislators came to the conclusion that the solution is introducing competition and unbundling monopolies. Such competition can reduce the costs, improve transparency and the quality of service, as well as innovations. Indeed, installation costs of the electricity network is too expensive with a long lifetime that makes the delivery of electricity a natural monopoly. However, the generation did not need to be a monopoly, especially with the evolution of several small-scale energy generators and companies who owned them. For this reason, the regulation started by separating the delivery and the generation in the electricity network. While the delivery part remained still a monopoly, the generation side turned into a competition. This allowed many new providers to enter the market. As these players wanted to trade freely and directly, the electricity markets evolved. These markets allow suppliers to bid and trade in a deregulated market. On the other side of the electricity supply chain, electricity demand also decided to unbundle delivery to the end consumers from the tariffing of the end consumers. While the distribution system operator is still in charge of last mile delivery, the tariffing was transferred to the so-called retailers. In each region, multiple retailers competed with each other to attract end consumers. The retailers estimated the total electricity demand of their consumers and played as a buyer in the wholesale electricity markets to purchase enough electricity for the aggregate of their consumers. And consumers also enjoyed a reduced cost of electricity with a variety of tariff options and the choice of retailers. Competition among retailers also induced more innovations. Deregulation is not happening at the same speed and pace in wholesale and retail levels, though. Deregulation at the wholesale level is much more mature and advanced. There are only a few places that could introduce deregulation and even less competitive at the retail level. This is particularly due to the different nature of market players at the wholesale and retail levels. Traditionally, suppliers in the wholesale market owned energy generator assets that recover their capex by entering into the market. Retailers, though, traditionally didn't own any assets and only acted as financial institutes. This, however, is gradually changing as retailers also started to own generation assets and even storage. Another difference is that market entry in the wholesale market is less risky and easier. In the retail market, retailers are responsible for providing electricity demand of all of their consumers, typically with agreed upon prices, while still facing the volatile wholesale prices for their purchase. The extent of the regulation has also had some other limitations. For example, at the wholesale level, an entirely liberalized market might lead to market manipulation. The heterogeneity in energy suppliers doesn't provide a level playing field for all generators with no regulations. For example, hydropower plants can hold their generation for some time to affect market prices to their benefit. Another source of friction for deregulation is the set of subsidies that are sometimes enforced to push for some technological changes in the energy mix. Most notably, due to decarbonization, there are regulations that subsidize and prioritize carbon-neutral energy suppliers, giving them priority in the merit order and often through long-term fixed-price contracts. A third example that limits market deregulation corresponds to market entry barriers, such as the minimum size of generators to qualify to participate in the market, or the maximum price caps in bidding or affecting the natural market price formation and applying penalties in case of market manipulation. This raises the question that should we expect or is it good at all to have a fully deregulated market? The answer is not simple. One important observation is that to maintain market efficiency, we need to have a perfect market structure in place before we can fully liberalize the market. Otherwise, liberalization can lead to market manipulation and efficiency loss. Unfortunately, though, a perfect market structure is very difficult to be designed, especially with the dynamic changes that are happening in electricity markets. This is why we see electricity market structures keep changing, even in an inconsistent way across different countries. To steer market directions towards decarbonization and to avoid manipulations, regulators still hold some rules in these markets. So, some level of regulatory interventions, at least in the transition phase, is always helpful to ensure that the market is moving in the right direction before it is designed efficiently. This brings us to the end of this video, and we will follow up on this matter in the next video. The takeaway messages from this video are to induce competition, better prices, higher quality, and innovation. Both retail and wholesale markets are going through deregulation. Full deregulation must be accompanied by proper market structure and market mechanisms. Some regulatory interventions is helpful to steer deregulation towards an efficient and decarbonized market.